Next is the strategic partnership of Global Peace Foundation throughout the world. So I'd like to introduce the presenter, Dr. David Caprara. He's the Vice President of Strategic Partnership with the Global Peace Foundation in Washington, D.C. He's also non-resident fellow on the International Volunteering and Service at the Brookings Institution and board member of Africa Conference on Volunteer Action for Peace and Development. He previously served as a Deputy Assistant Secretary for the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and as a Director of Faith-Based Initiatives at the Corporation for National and Community Service. Please welcome Dr. David Caprara.
We say Kamsahamnida and Hamjambo, and all protocols observed. We've already introduced most of our dignitaries, but last night we had a special dignitary arrive from the Republic of Korea, the Honorable Kim Jae-yoon of the National Assembly of Korea. If you could please stand, also a member of our National Leadership Council. Thank you. And when we think of strategic partnerships, I believe I see Dr. Mohammed Singh, the CSR Chief of Malaysian Airlines. Are you still here, sir? Could we have our Malaysian Airlines friends please stand? Let's just give them a round of applause. We really appreciated their leadership in this conference. I'm going to speak to you briefly about our efforts in GPF to do what our chairman calls connecting the dots between some of our initiatives so that we can leverage each of your assets in our regions through leadership networks with a particular emphasis in this case on young leaders and service. We heard with President Mauricio, I think already, the launch of the Latin American Presidential Mission with 20 former heads of state. Last year, they met at the Jimmy Carter Presidential Center in Atlanta, Georgia, during our convention, promoting a unique model of cooperation across the hemisphere. There are now approximately 20 former heads of state involved. This is at the Jimmy Carter Center in the upper right last year. Backing these leadership networks up is good scholarship and think tanks. So we want to invite you. Are there any academics, academia, research? I see Dr. Leah Marengo with African Nazarene. We value the power of scholarship. Our partner here, University of Malaya, working together, whether you want to build a new think tank research group in your region or network virtually and otherwise with scholars like Dr. Kwak from Korea and their think tank to drive many of these engines of leadership. So think tanks and research institutions are very important partners to document success. The Africa Leadership Mission took a page from Latin America and developed just last month in Nigeria. By the way, are there any Nigerians in the house? Let me hear from Nigeria. Are there any Ugandans in the house? Are there any Kenyans in the house? I think I hear our Africa family there. So congratulations. They launched the Africa Leadership Mission on peace building, young leadership and service just a couple of weeks ago in Abuja, Nigeria, with His Excellency Obasanjo. We have his special assistant over here, Bishop Mosquito, very famous man. KK, one of the most famous founding fathers of Africa next to Madiba, Nelson Mandela, is His Excellency Kenneth Kaunda of Zambia, Sir James Manchin of Seychelles, President Gurma of Ethiopia, and President Karume of Zanzibar. These all gathered together and they called it the Mission on Peace Building, Young Leadership, and Service. They also acknowledged the critical importance of multi-sectors, including the private sector led by Dr. Mano Chandaria and the United Nations. Dr. Markandi Rai, if you could please stand, for leading the effort to bring this agenda to the UN. I also want to acknowledge the Africa Regional Representative, Mr. Inchu Choi, if you could please stand, Jae-yoon Kim that works with him, and Daniel Juma, please stand. Is Milton here from Uganda, and John from Nigeria. These are our Africa Leadership Group. Nelson Mandela said, Madiba, I dream of an Africa which is in peace with itself. You know, Archbishop Desmond Tutu was his partner in so many acts in the liberation movement, and he too has a book that's called God Has a Dream, We Are Family. It's the same universal message. So I think Madiba's spirit here with us today is really projecting that. And I'm pleased to announce, Daniel Juma, if you could please stand again, our Kenya director, it was announced just yesterday that they are dedicating the Africa Peace Service Corps to Nelson Mandela. When we think of a regional approach to youth leadership and service, imagine for a moment a youth peace service network throughout a region taking action along with programs like Mr. Cho's and the spirit of volunteerism that President Park unleashed in empowering people is a much more effective way at getting at these MDGs. Imagine them developing peaceful mechanisms of conflict that are rooted in universal principles and values, like one family under God. Well, in 2010, the second Global Peace Convention in Nairobi, Kenya, launched just that in East Africa under the leadership of President Kibaki and Prime Minister Raila Odinga and 40 nations, where they launched the East Africa Peace Service Corps in the declaration. Now, I want you to keep in mind this afternoon at 4 o'clock, you will launch the Kuala Lumpur Declaration. And when we launch these lofty ideas, please know that we view these convenings as action-forcing, partnership-generating events. Right, Dr. Schuler? We didn't come just to put another book on the shelf. We came to put boots on the ground and to launch movements of action to achieve measurable outcomes. In this case, imagine in Asia, Latin America, and Africa, if you will, even a global approach to Peace Corps beyond the U.S. model, but looking more at Latin Americans, at Africans, at Asians, programs like Sama Udang, programs like Koika, joining forces on 3 levels I would like to propose or posit. First, on the level of young leadership, do we have some of the Asia Youth Exchange people here? Nicholas Lee, I think Farley is here. Please stand. I want to recognize the leaders of the Asia Youth Exchange, together with Global Peace Youth Corps. Secondly, in the track of NGOs and corporate partnerships, I think Don Marquez, you're here. Please stand. He is a dynamic NGO leader, Service for Peace, hands-on Manila. Now he's going from here to Macau, China tomorrow to network the action they took yesterday on the whole Asia regional level. So think about that. Youth are the ground floor, youth and social media. NGOs, companies like Safaricom in Africa, the mobile phone giant, is actually chairing the climate change, tree planting, environmental service track. Have you ever heard of M-Pesa, mobile banking? They invented mobile banking revolution. They are leading that effort, right, Dr. Rai, in Africa. So I want you to think about stepping up with corporate partners in CSR. And then on that foundation, we can say on the regional level, national agencies, again, like Koika, like Sama Udang, and regional government agencies like the East Africa Community. I'm pleased to announce, I'm sorry to keep recognizing, but Daniel Juma, please stand again with INSU. They've just set an MOU with COMESA. 19 nations in East Africa have just agreed to pursue a partnership with GPF on taking action. So then you go up to the larger level, like the Africa Union or ASEAN. And so when you think of those 3 levels, youth, NGOs and corporates, national and region, come on over here to ASEAN. We have how many nations in ASEAN? Is it 10? 10. Guess who's going to chair ASEAN next year? Does anybody know? Next October. Who's chairing it currently? How about Myanmar? Myanmar currently chairs ASEAN. Next October, the gavel will go to Malaysia. And Malaysia has told us, let's give them a round of applause, especially Mr. Azam and your wonderful minister and team. They have told us we will take this agenda into ASEAN next year. And not only that, we won't stop there, because the United Nations, Dr. Rai, in Bangkok, as you know, is for the greater Asia, including all the way to Mongolia, China, Korea. So we would like to propose today and enlist you to get the United Nations Youth Envoy. I will get the Health Envoy and other envoys to Bangkok next June, that will combine the International Young Leaders Assembly approach and this volunteer action approach for a network on the greater Asian level. In Africa, they're taking action in 4 levels: conservation, environmental service, programs like the All Lights Signature Project, massive tree planting on Mandela Day throughout Africa has already happened and it's happening each year. Bishop Mosquito, we've already heard about, launching health service corps through their great leadership. But that's just an example. Imagine Uganda alone. I believe they have 10,000 volunteers, health service volunteers, working in villages on basic life-saving hygiene. And positive peace is another one of the key tracks. Here we are again with Bishop Sunday Onoha, who is the leader with the Sultan of Sokoto and Cardinal John, the Catholic Cardinal. Now, this model was brought to our attention by the United Nations and the World Bank. They have recognized that this work that the Africa team has done in Nigeria Interfaith Action, along with GPF, is truly an international model. Just a couple weeks ago in the Philippines, right at the time of the typhoon, 15,000 volunteers were gathered, cleaning up the Manila Bay in the aftermath of the typhoon. And I'm pleased to again announce, as David Yu shared with us, there was an assembly of global peace volunteers launched, the Asia Peace Service Corps there in Manila, 1,000 volunteers, and they did the turnover ceremony. There's David Yu that just presented the solar lanterns. And David Yu and the Korea team are people of action. Within a week, they had these lanterns on the boat. They couldn't fly on the airplane because of a battery problem. They stuck them on the boat. And there's the Congresswoman at the turnover ceremony. Could we give them a round of applause? The fiery Speaker of the House of the Philippines, Jose De Venecia, whose wife, Congresswoman Gina De Venecia, has been with you, along with Dr. Chua, if you could raise your hand, the Philippine chairman of GPF, made this launch together. He's also doing medical missions throughout the islands. So congratulations to Asia for launching it. I'd also like to say linking these foundations globally is a brand called the International Young Leaders Assembly. They met in the United Nations in New York last August, and this was a session with 500 young delegates. Were any of you there? I know I'm going to introduce one of them, was there in a minute, but this is in the UN in New York, moral and innovative leadership, vision, service, entrepreneurship. This is Ban Ki-moon's new envoy, Ahmad Al-Indawi from Jordan, the new Secretary General's envoy on youth. This was his first meeting as the UN envoy, was the IYLA with 500 young leaders from this movement, and he's agreed to partner with us. He's done a video and will work with us throughout the world. You can see here, I want each of you to see what's happening here. Delegation visits. We charge each of you to meet your delegations at the United Nations, to meet your ambassadors, and to educate them about what happened at Global Peace Convention 5. This is the convening at the World Bank in Washington, right after the delegates were at the UN. This is the managing director of the World Bank, the keynote speaker, Sri Indrawati, the managing director from Indonesia. Nicholas Lee, please stand again. This is the famous Asia Youth Exchange leader, Nicholas Lee. And he's representing all the young leaders, 500 of them. We even had Dr. Schuler's son, Anthony, and others there last night. They launched the Global Peace Festival in IYLA to another level just last night here at this hotel. The delegates then went to Capitol Hill. Now, why are we showing this picture? Are you going home next week? Is anybody going home? Can you take a little homework and promise today that you'll go meet your congressman, you'll go meet your ambassador, put a delegation together, tell them what happened at Global Peace Convention 5. Give them a copy of the KL Declaration. Is Ye Ching Lee in the audience? This is there he is, right here. He's the Secretary General of IYLA. And they had the China Youth Speakers Summit, and the finale was on the 50th anniversary of Dr. Martin Luther King's March on Washington. Yes, Barack Obama graced the occasion along with President Clinton and was the featured finale of IYLA. The closing ceremony, the graduation, was at the Organization of American States, the official convening of all of Latin America. There they are getting their awards, just a sample of the groups. It was sponsored by 22 missions at the United Nations. Ye Ching, I think we're meeting this August again next year. So can we double that to 40? Will each of you contact your UN delegation? How about UAE? I think we can count on you to take action to expand this global network of young professionals. And I close with saying that this convention in Kuala Lumpur was intended also to be a gateway, how we can reach out across Middle East, Africa, South Asia, in this greater region. And the United Arab Emirates is truly a great gateway. Together with Malaysia, you can see its strategic location, and indeed, the UAE Embassy in Washington hosted the International Young Leaders Assembly when they came to Washington before the March on Washington. We had a lovely reception at UAE. Now, Dubai, as you know, is the front door to the world, and I'm pleased to announce that just a week ago, Dubai was officially selected UAE to host the World Expo 2020. Let's give our Dubai UAE, could they stand? Could you please stand? There's Dr. Omar. And Dubai, I can't just pass over. The City of Gold is truly an amazing city. There's the Khalifa Towers, the tallest tower in the world. They give great tours, by the way, when you go there. His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum is a global visionary. You must read his book, My Vision. I'll let our next speaker explain more. This is our meeting to my friend Mr. Cho. We can see the Seoul Peace Prize was also there. And they reached out around the world to study the different World Peace Awards, and GPF's Global Peace Award was a recognized best practice at that forum with our next guest speaker. My last point is Dubai really has this wonderful hub, free trade zone. They believe in low taxes and global trade. Well, they have an international humanitarian city that I propose it even become a capital of the Global Peace Corps. More on that later. They have wonderful grand mosques. And to close this, I just want to thank the United Arab Emirates and our next speaker, Mr. Mohammed Abdullah Mohammed,